Good afternoon, everybody. How is everybody today? I never can think of any good opening music. Mostly it's because you can never please everybody. You're always going to piss off somebody. Brett's going to be pissed because it's not metal, or AC, he's going to want it rap, or I don't know. But in any case, dream up your own opening song. So, my title of my stream is called Learning to Breathe in a Frightening New World. And that's what the last couple of weeks have been about. At first, learning to breathe was hour by hour. I'm finally kind of at a point where I can take it day by day. I have been absolutely floored by the outpouring of sentiments from everybody the last 2 weeks. I really have. The fact that you would reach out to me, somebody you've never met, for a loss, for someone that you've also never met and didn't even know on the internet, like you know me. I think that's wonderful. It showcases the very best in humanity. It really does. I have had a lot of time to think. Oh, Dingo. Send bloody Mrs. Dingo to make the coffee. Isn't that what you usually do? Dear Dingo. Sometimes I've talked a lot about growing up, bucking up, and facing up. And my mind's not changed on any of it, even now. The night my husband passed away, it happened so quickly, all of it. And it was a perfect storm of things that was designed to take him from me. It really was. My husband always said, honey, when it's your time, it's your time. There is nothing you can do when your number's called. And my husband's illness is proof of his words in every way. But it was overwhelming to realize that the last 2 years of your life had been about preparing you for this moment. Because the only thing that was prepared in any way for my husband's passing was me. I never labored under any delusions that he was going to be at my side forever and ever and ever. My husband was a pack-a-day smoker. I had hoped we would have more than 20 years together. I'd kind of hoped, he might be with me at our granddaughter's high school graduation. But that was not to be. To find yourself suddenly on your own, basically, after always having your spouse there. It's just amazing, all the little things that need to be done that the other person does that you take for granted. For instance, the first thing I realized that was on me at night now, really, is making sure all the doors are locked, that we're secure. Mike always did that. And just simple things like that. So I would really, there are so many that express sentiments to me. There are so many. And it started really from the moment I sent a message to Chicky and told her that my husband was in the hospital. I basically had people in Discord at all hours waiting for news. I had people send me their phone number telling me to call them at any hour of the day, that if I needed them, that they were there for me. As I said, it represented some of the very best of humanity to have everybody there. And of course, God bless Chicky and Steph. I mean, they're the ones that help tell a lot of people. So, I wouldn't have to tell everybody. It kind of spared me that. And I appreciate that a lot. I also want to express my sincere thanks to the group of people in Discord that hang out in voice chat that sent me a beautiful flower arrangement. Looks like they put a lot of thought into what they thought I would like, and they were right. It was beautiful. I loved it. So I'm counting a few blessings. Being that my husband retired merely 6 months ago and he was only 68 years old, I didn't have to get to see him be truly old and frail and sick. I didn't have to see that happen. I was protected from seeing that happen. You could call it God or fate, whatever. But for whatever reason, I'm supposed to be alone right now. I don't know what fate has in store. but we shall see. Looks like Steph is up. You're doing amazing. You know, for those of you that have watched my live streams and have, that know me in Discord, you know that I have struggled with mental illness in the past. And that for a while there, I was really knocked down. And the final blow that did it was the loss of my mother over 10 years ago. And every day, I have standards that I have to meet for myself because I don't want to go back into that. So every day I get up and I look at myself in the mirror and I remind myself of some hard facts. It's all on me now, and nobody owes me shit. Nobody owes me anything. Some of you are crazy, and a lot of you are definitely assholes, and sometimes I am too. Ace, thank you. And I have been. Sometimes I've just been calling people to BC just to fill the silence. I'm doing all right. I went back to work a week after it happened, and I haven't succumbed to calling in yet, and I haven't been late, and I've gotten up, showered, and put on makeup every morning. So all of those I'm going to mark as victories. Hey, bedtime plan. How are you? Welcome to the chat, Joe Samuel. Thank you. Oh, we have Twisted Skeptic. Thank you. Hey, Betty Boo. Silver Diamond, or as she's known over at the settlement, Copper Fossil. I love the nicknames. I loved Brett's nickname for me. He calls me Tober's mom. I guess that's kind of true. I have Tobers and he thinks I'm his mommy. Crazy dingo. Good day. Hi, Beach. How are you? Welcome, Michelle. And no, not everybody is a horrible person. Not everybody is a horrible person. Like I said, all of the outpouring of condolences has been a real blessing to me. Well, Fox, you can be a real dick, but I know you're not Richard Cheese. There's only one Richard Cheese. Hello, Tommy. Welcome to the chat. Carol Scott, I'm sorry for your loss. Welcome, Pat S. Thank you for coming by. My friend, who is my friend Corrosive, who has known me since before my breakthrough 2 years ago, has pointed out to me the fact that if this had happened 2 years ago, I would probably be an utter complete mess. Good for Mrs. Dingo. That's the spirit. It is. My husband and I were married for 23 years, and we went through a whole hell of a lot together. And the amazing thing is that after my breakthrough, things were just awesome. Had a good marriage before, but after the breakthrough, they were just incredible. And so I guess the fact that we have the memory of those last 18 months, or that I have that to hold on to, it's been a true comfort to me. That's a pretty tall order, Chickie. So let's see. Let's go ahead. I'm going to drop my link. All right. I got that pinned now. Yeah, that's me. I'm the crazy broad. Eat taco. Even I feel the difference between this time and the last time. In so many ways, this cuts so much worse than losing my mother. But the grieving has been a whole lot healthier. I've been able to function. I've been able to talk to people without constantly being a mess or clamming up because of the anxiety, or it just, I've been able to function. You know, my husband and I, we were married for 23 years. And when we met, he's my boss. I worked as an assistant manager for a chain of shoe stores back in the late 90s. And they fired my boss. Well, I'm scared to death because in retail, a lot of times when they fire the manager, they do what they call a clean sweep. So I was scared. Anyway, they tell me your new boss will be here shortly. Go ahead and get the register ready. We'll be opening in about 20 minutes or so. So I'm counting down the drawer, trying to keep my wits together. I was 22. I was 22. This was the year 1998. And I'm counting down the drawer, and all of a sudden, this very tall man with gray at the temples approaches the door and starts to pull on the handle. Well, we're not open yet. The door's locked. We're in a mall, so it's not a huge distance to the front door. So I see him clearly. And the first thought that goes in my head, because keep in mind, he's got a bag from the store with a box of shoes in it, is, great. Here comes some fool, walk into the door, trying to get in. He needs to return a pair of shoes from his wife. We are not open yet. He can sit outside and cool his heels. Oh. That's exactly how my thought process worked at that very moment. Exactly. Even the O. Because when the O came out, I realized it was my new boss. And I had not been working for him 3 months before I realized that he was that he was just one of the kindest people I had ever met. Polite, good-natured, easygoing, laid back. You have to realize my husband at that point, he was 42. He had never been married, had never been engaged. He'd never even lived in sin. I didn't say he was a virgin. Thank you very much. But he'd never even lived in sin, so he'd never lived with anybody, not cohabitating. And you would think, well, what's wrong with him? There wasn't anything wrong with him. There was nothing wrong with him, nothing in the world. He is a hidden gem. Just very shy. Then I am too. I have some the night we were married, we came back to our apartment, and my husband bent to pick me up, and my wedding gown was so slippery that he dropped me. That's a true story. To give an idea, there was no reason my husband couldn't pick me up and carry me over the threshold. He was 6'4", about 200 pounds. I'm 5'3". It's just that dress was so slippery. I just slid right out of his arms, right onto the floor. And we both just laughed. We laughed about it. Every time we brought it up, it was funny and never stopped being funny. So, because I was married before, he raised my kids with me. And we hadn't even been married 3 months when I came home from work. I'd worked late, and I found him sitting in the floor with my daughter, and he was making the most pathetic attempt I've ever seen to put curlers in my 3-year-old's hair. But because she pleaded with him and said she wanted curlers, he was going to give it his best shot. He was a great dad. He really was. My daughter brought up the first time she met him. She remembered it, even as little as she was. She remembered because he was the first person to get on the floor with her and let her ride on his back and play horsey. So that made a big impression with her at 3. Does anybody want to come up? I'm not going to bust out crying or nothing. Anyone have the newest tea to spell? La 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 la. Yeah. His name should now be the real Richard Cheese. Mhm. Oh, okay.
Hey,
Hey, bedtime clown.
I would ask how you're doing, but kind of have an idea. And it's really good to hear how well you are doing, considering. And
Well, if you've listened to my live streams, I was not somebody who took my husband for granted.
no, um, but I would just wanted to come up real quick and let you know uh, you have Voodoo and I's deepest condolences. And we are listening intently. And, we're not that far apart logistically. So, you
Right.
know, if you ever needed a helping hand, you know, I don't know if you have an email on your about section or not. I can shoot you an email, or I can get my email to you. Either way, you know, can't always offer the words, but if you ever needed an actual helping hand, we could definitely offer that. And just wanted to let you know that there's people that are here so that you're not alone in this.
Yeah. But, I just kind of look at myself in the mirror and just remind myself that the world doesn't owe me anything.
No, there are people in the world that you know know that and don't there's no expectation of anything. It's not about owing on either side. It's more about just giving and helping. So you know there's that. But
And I appreciate that so much. Y'all just have no idea. You know, when my mom passed away, it was pretty much just me and my husband. I mean, I'm pretty much kind of a hermit anyway. I don't deny it. Very, I don't know, introverted, I guess. And I mean, it's honestly the biggest reason why Katie has all her subs and I hardly have any. That I don't care. But because I'm just introverted, I'm quieter. I'm just not the, you know, mover and shaker personality type.
yeah, no, I understand and identify with that 100%. 100%. Yeah.
But, it was just me and my husband. And, you know, I guess life is funny in a way. Like I said, the last 2 years have been about preparing me for this moment. And the night my husband passed was the moment I realized it, because it was the most helpless feeling in the world, because I just, like I said, just too much, too fast. But you know what? In retrospect, I'll take the Band-Aid rip every time, having been through the process of a long goodbye.
I think that I think it's a lot like that saying about grief. They say you never really get over it; you just learn to live with it.
Yeah.
And I think when you know it's coming and you see it coming, whether it's 2 years or 10 years, at least that's been my experience. You 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 learn to live with that reality that one day that is coming. It's always in the
It's
back. It's
a
just not
reality.
always in the back of your mind. And it would be a horrible way to live to think about it constantly. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Uh, so you just kind of learn to maneuver around it and live with it. You know.
Yeah. That So, all I had was him. But this time it was different. It was a whole lot different for me. Sometimes learning to breathe, it was several days before I could even go in my bedroom without breaking down. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
go, going to work has probably been the best thing for me. The company gave me a week off, and so I took my week and I went back. Uh, I have a very high brain power job,
Yeah.
so my mind doesn't have time to focus on unhealthy stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and kind of like what you were recounting with what Corrosive was saying. I mean, it's better that it happened now than then. And the timing is not by accident. You know, it's not a
It's not.
it's not a coincidence. You know, it happened. It happened when it needed to happen.
Happened when I was at my strongest mentally.
Yep. Yep.
And it's just odd. I think part of the deal with my mom when my mom passed was that because there were just so many things, everything just felt incomplete when she passed. I haven't had that feeling with my husband. Just, it was like from almost the moment we got to the hospital, I was fighting off this rising sense of panic. And that rising sense of panic was due to what was coming.
Yeah.
And by the time they told me what was going on, in the back of my mind, I knew. I knew. I look at I look at medical charts with comorbidities like that every day.
Yeah.
And it was like this perfect storm of events occurred at the same fucking time. See, my husband was a type 2 diabetic, and he had had a nephrectomy in 2020. And when he retired last year, he had a checkup and all his numbers were good. His A1C was great. My husband wasn't overweight. He had a little bit of a belly, but I think that was more just shifting with age, than
Yeah.
anything else. Dad bod, or in his case, granddad bod. And so he was doing really well. He was working full time on his feet. He worked retail like I did once upon a time.
Yeah.
So, he was doing fine. And when we got to the hospital, and it happened so fast. And when they did that neck to toe CT and told me what was wrong, my husband had blood clots in both lungs. So he had bilateral pulmonary embolism. He had a blood clot in his left leg, and he had a perforated duodenal ulcer. And they delivered the killing blow. His remaining kidney is smaller than we would like.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it was a perfect storm of things that was designed to take him from us. I don't, it just was crazy.
Do you think, are you appreciative of the fact that maybe it went quicker than it could have and possibly spared him?
It spared him and it spared all of us.
Yeah.
I, I have said so. After it happened, I said, having gone through the long goodbye with both of my parents, where they were in the hospital for months,
Yeah.
only for them to not come home. The fact that it happened in 2 days with my husband,
Yeah.
actually 36 hours, if you really want to get technical. It, it spared me the long goodbye. And I've been through that trauma twice, 3 times, if you count my grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
There's, but when I do have to point this out. My husband was 68 years old. And for those of you in the community, who who is 68 years old? Who do we hear about that is 68 years old? Bedtime clown.
sorry, I was muting because of the plane in the moment. Um, yeah. Are we going to get in trouble if I say their name? Do we want to even? I don't even.
No, 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 because I'm going to let you in on a little known fact about Liz Kay. Liz owns the name Ellen.
Oh,
I do.
yeah, that one.
Yeah. Uh, And I will use it anytime I want because huh, it's my middle name. It was my grandmother's name. And I was giving it to her, given that name for her.
Mm.
So without further ado, yes.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. I mean, I yeah.
And I've told the little fucker on one of my last live streams, he's woefully unprepared. I'm not even prepared. Holy crap, we didn't know my husband had to retire, was going to retire last year. He planned to work until he was 70. But I have life skills, I have job skills, I have, you know, I got my head on straight after a while of not having it on straight. When his mother passes, there'll be no Section 8, there'll be no monthly stipend, there'll be no food stamps, there'll be no nothing for him to fall back on. And whether people believe me or not, that was one of the reasons. It wasn't just me wanting him not to get any donos anymore. What I saw was somebody who also has a date with fate coming.
Mm.
We don't know when it is. I'm not wishing for it. Not really. I did say something a couple of days ago that seemed to spark the ire of somebody. Of course, if that person wanted to come up and take a link on my panel and discuss it with me, I would be more than happy to do so. And if you saw my panel with Shiva, I'm not going to just drop you off because we have a disagreement. But yeah, I did. I said I was perversely irked about that person even breathing these days. And I guess that person thought, my being married before was my being married and losing my husband was some sort of scam. I don't know what kind of scam she thought I was running.
Lord have mercy.
And then she said I was not a nice person. Well, look, I have never said that I was a Disney princess, that I was Snow White, that I was Cinderella, that I was any of those wonderful sugar and spice and everything nice. I have said, I've said on my panels that I am a prickly, bitchy sort of female who was very fortunate to be married to a kind and loving man. And I always knew it. And I even admitted that the sentiment was perverse. See, I know it was not a nice sentiment, not a good sentiment, and it certainly is a futile one on my part. I do recognize that. But I thought of the fact that my husband was a good man, a good husband, a good father, who worked his ass off nearly every day for almost 50 fucking years. So yeah, I had a little perverse moment there for a moment. And I'm not going to apologize for it. People in this community don't really want to apologize. They want to publicly flay you. They don't want you to apologize. They want to flay you.
Yeah.
And they can. I don't give a fuck. I've got bigger fish to fry. So a happy hippie, aka Truth and Tales, should you desire to come and have a discussion with me while I am live, I would be more than happy to do so. But somehow I think you won't. Because any sort of discussion with me is going to require some formidable skills. Do you have them, lady? I don't think so. So, you got, like I said, my husband didn't think the world owed him anything, and we've got feel sorry for my mom and buy us an eighth to the face every day, who has done nothing but gift us with Connie. He's still trying to get new supporters. I think that's funny. His silent spurgs. Ooh.
Yeah.
I do have to say, I heartily prefer the silent streams where he just types in chat. I'll tell you why.
He can type novels if he wants to. If he's not talking, nobody cares.
Right. And not only that, he can't really grift without opening his mouth, and I think he knows that. I think
he's definitely aware of that.
He's very aware of that. And personally, the chat spurgs are great because it means nobody has to put any time into watching him for me.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, for the most part, unless you catch me in his chat on a weekend or a weeknight or something, I'm not really watching him. Sugar Crit sends me messages with updates all the time. But I mean, I'm just not watching him. And mostly because my mental health is something that I take seriously. And if once I realized that listening to him every day was having a demoralizing effect on me, I stopped.
Yeah.
Because I've got to stay motivated. And of course, now that applies more than ever. If it applied in September, 100 times that now. So I like it because I can come by a couple of times a day. I can look in on it and read whatever his bitch is at that moment. And that's it.
Well, for a long time, even back before we all fell out, I would use his chat numbers. I would, I wouldn't. There was a bunch of times I wouldn't even go in there if there was only like 7 people or 9 people, 11 people or less. I wouldn't even bother. Wouldn't even click on it. I would refresh it just to see what the chat number was. If he's got chat numbers like 15 and above, he's usually talking, or he's having a panel. If it's like, less than that, there's no point in even bothering with it because he's just sitting there in fucking silence. And I think that's just the dumbest thing ever, no matter what your grift is. That's just fucking stupid. Um, maybe if he were Charlie Sheen, that might work. Or some other batshit crazy celebrity, it might work, but not for Rebel City Sports. I don't know if
Uh,
I don't know if he realizes that or not, but I would assume, just because I wasn't around years and years ago, but I would assume that people have been aware of that tactic for a long time, or else they wouldn't be restreaming him in Discord and on other YouTube channels. It's not just about not giving him the view. It's like what is, I mean, me personally, I'm just naturally lazy. So YouTube offers that little bit of me to take an advantage of. And I don't, if there's an extra finger swipe and a voice I don't have to hear and I can just tell by the number, why bother myself with it? I mean, really and truly so.
just see, I people have their opinion about what I wanted to do to Rebel, that I wanted to bully him. But the truth is, I've never once gone real life on him, ever. I've not called anything that has anything to do with him, not the rideshare service, not even to investigate what the rules are, by the way, not even to do that.
Yeah.
I've never called his attorneys. I've never called the police. I've never called the grocery store or the weed store I've never done anything in that regard. And I don't know any what the logistics of any plans to film him, and I don't know anything about that. I've never touched him.
Yeah. Same
I've
here.
had some harsh fucking things to say to him, but I can tell you what drove them. What drove them was the fact that losing my mother prior to losing my husband was the most devastating life event I had been through. And I saw this young man who mentally is a child. I don't care what he says.
Yeah.
He is a child mentally, who has a date coming with fate.
Yep.
And there's nothing he can do to stop that. Because, like my husband once said to me, honey, when they call your number, there's nothing you can do about it. When it's your time, it's your time.
Well, and something else too is it's not just that date with fate, it's what leads up to it. You know, I know when I first started talking about some of the things that could potentially happen, um, to her, uh, you know, needing help using the bathroom, um, you know, she could end up. I had a cousin who, he um, he had a recurring brain tumor. Um, they first you when CyberKnife first came out, they used it on him, and it went into remission for a few years, and then it came back, and it would go into remission and come back like every few years, and it would come back with a tenacity and just get worse and worse and worse until the point where he was a large man as well, 6'4", 6'5", 230 pounds or so when he was, in his youth. And then as he got older, and those tumors kept coming back and the sicker he got, well, I mean, he ended up weighing well over 400 pounds and his entire body was just one big fucking scab. And he, he didn't have a family other than his parents, and his parents had died. and he was in a different state, so there was no way that I could take care of him. All of that side of my family, they were all pretty much dead, and so it was hospice for him. And I would fly from here to North Carolina, whenever I could afford to. And this was multiple times a year for a little over a year, just to visit him. And it was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah.
He it was just a terrible existence. That's the best way I can put it. I hate to even think of it. And he has no clue. And I'm guessing he doesn't want to. But
He
so
doesn't.
what? So what's the reality? Is he just going to up and walk away? I mean, you would have never done that to your husband, even if you weren't, even if you didn't have the mental capacity, say from a couple of years ago. There's some of us that are more prone to self-destructive behavior in the midst of going through something like that. Like me, that's me personally. I would take care of what I needed to take care of, but I would destroy myself personally after it happened, because it's so fucking traumatic, and I have such a mental disconnect with a healthy mentality, right? You strike me as probably kind of along the same lines. You would take care of what you need to take care of. But Rebel ultimately, I think, would just abandon her in that situation.
I don't know anything about that. I don't know. I What I saw in him was I saw somebody who just 36 hours like the ones I had almost 3 weeks ago
Yeah,
could utterly upend his life. That's what I saw.
yeah,
I you know because I always knew that my marriage had an active termination date. People can say, well, you never know about those things. You could have gotten cancer or something. Look, I knew. I always knew I would outlive him. So it was one of those things that in the back of my mind, I had learned to always accept. It was a trade off that I had for having an exceptional husband.
yeah.
And I saw this person online with so many limitations and nothing going for them that one night could totally upend his existence. And he could very well die as a result, lose his life. And all I saw was a community of people putting off the inevitable for him
Mhm.
by handing him money. Because with every donation that people give to Rebel, they put off the necessity of him having to make arrangements for himself so he will have something to depend on in the event of his mother's passing.
Yeah, 100%.
And whether he applies for assistance, because I really do think that's what he should do. I realize there's a big debate on how mentally fucked up he is, but I think he's mentally fucked. I do. I don't look down on him for being on assistance, for needing to apply for SSI. I don't look down on him for any of that. I look down on him for the way he treats people who have tried to help him.
Mhm.
I look down on him for thinking the world owes him a living of luxuries. I That's why I look down on him. It's not because his mother doesn't work or is on Section 8, or it's not any of that. I saw this young man who is going to die soon after his mother does because he is unwilling to accept reality. And we have a community full of trolls who like to, quote, piss off the haters. Let's give Rebel $10 and piss off the haters. Look, you giving Rebel $10 does not make my blood pressure elevate. It doesn't piss me off and send me into a tizzy and make steam come out of my ears. What it does is it makes me a little sad. And the reason why it makes me sad, because each time people give this kid money, they put off that inevitability. They put off his mental reckoning with that upcoming date with fate. This kid needs to have some sort of income that he can point to and depend on. And whether he gets a job and gets that for himself, or he applies for assistance and the government gives it to him, I care not. But the fact that that he thinks he has the right to have an expectation of a dollar amount, because he does. He's convinced that every time people go live, the money is tick, tick, ticking between the cash apps, and that hundreds and hundreds of dollars are flowing every day, and he's not getting any of them. And that's just not the case.
You got to hear him tell it. Y'all are living paycheck to paycheck on our paychecks. We don't actually get any of our money for anything for us to, we don't eat, we don't drive, we don't pay insurance, we don't have any stuff. It all goes to this community.
And it's crazy. But for the past few days, the stuff that I have been told that's been going on with Connie, and reading some of the Chatsbergs, blah, 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 that I come back to one of the reasons I got involved in the first place. And that's the crux of it. That's the crux why Liz Kay wanted to choke off Connie's donos. That's the crux of it. Y'all wanted to know why. This is why. He's going to die if he doesn't. If he does not apply for assistance or get some sort of income, his mom will eventually pass away. And in the wake of my husband's death, I think that's more relevant than ever, given that they were born in the very same year, Rebel. Because nothing is guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to live into your 80s like my husband's 3 siblings. You're not guaranteed anything. You don't know what life is going to bring you.
That's true.
I sure didn't think it was going to make me widowed at 47. I didn't. I'm going to leave this here. Because that's the reality. And that's what every donation puts off. Personally, I think he likes being silent in chat, doing the little chat thing. And I think his mom makes him talk.
Yeah. I think she's a bigger driver of it than at least half of the people that know about this give credit for.
I do too. I've always thought that's why you can always hear her come in the room. You got anything? Yeah.
It's not just that. There's other things. There's,
Well, well, see, here's the thing. If you remember the Lawless video, when she she said, "Oh, I'm going to tell him to come on here even more," which meant she was already telling him to come on there.
uh, well, I mean, there's like so much in that slap video. There's so much, like so much of their game is exposed in that video,
It is.
and it it's not just him gaslighting her, and the whole thing is not just about gaslighting, but she gaslights him too, when she talks, and in that I can't remember if it was the Lawless one or she wasn't on panel, but she was addressing the chat, and I don't recall now if it was the slap video, like in the beginning, leading, not, like the 40 minutes leading up to it or something. I just know it, at some point you can hear her addressing a chat, and she's addressing him, but she's telling the chat that, you know, not verbatim, but she's basically saying, he's not a man because of you, you know, way to make him into a man. And then she's telling him something along the lines of, or to the effect of, oh, this is how you become a man. This, like this is his idea of how he becomes a man. But this is shit that she attacks him with behind the scenes when nobody's listening. You know,
Oh yeah.
so in my mind, it's almost it's an emasculation tactic that she'll use from time to time to get him to submit. Because you saw how easily he just ran to his room when he was told to. I mean, especially in the face of the cops being there. I still maintain that she's the one, or one of the ones, that called the police that day. Um, because, from his perspective, he got all out of control. He was probably coming down off that adrenaline high and was shaking like a leaf and couldn't think,
Well,
couldn't see, couldn't speak straight. And there's the one in front of him, in between him and the cops, which he's deathly afraid of, that has all the fucking control in that situation. So when she told him to take his ass to his room, he took his ass to his motherfucking room. You know, and he wants to talk about, people psychoanalyzing him and shit. Well, hey, dude, look, there's some of us that are better at foreshadowing than others. And there's some of us that are better at reading between the lines. And there's some of us that are good at all of them. And we're a little bit lucky from time to time. You know what I mean? So there's that. Doesn't have anything to do with psychoanalysis. It has everything to do with what you put out for our consumption. But I feel like he gets enough of our time and our dialogue. I just wanted to come up and tell you, Elizabeth, uh, two people to you, Voodoo and I, you have our deepest condolences. And like I said, we're just an email away. And if you've got an email, I'll email you. We don't have to, talk about anything here or anything like that. But even if it's just an ear, I know you got tons and tons of people on Discord and all that shit. We're not on Discord. We don't fuck with any of that.
it's all right.
But yeah, like I say, it could be something as simple as repairing a fence panel or what the fuck ever. You know what I mean? But don't hesitate if you are ever in the need, because we're not that far away. So
I really appreciate it.
yeah, and we appreciate you too. So I'm gonna hop down off of here, but thank you very much for having me up.
Sure.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye.
Hey, Biff. Welcome to the chat. Six banger. Bad time clown is just mad because KC barbecue is better than Texas barbecue. That's such a Fox thing to say. Oh my goodness. But that was a big motivating factor. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh, he's a lazy little, a grungy little weed weasel, little preemie baby retard. It's one thing to say all of that. But at the end of the day, I see somebody who I really do think, having lived with a person with a severe and profound mental illness and having suffered from a mental illness myself, that he's mentally ill. I really do think so. And I see somebody that has an eventual date with fate, just like I did. Just like I did from the day I married my husband. I knew that. I had a date with fate. And when our number is called, there's nothing we can do to stop it. And he will have nothing and no one, because he could have had a support system like I had, but he pushed everybody away. And he'll have nothing in the real world that he can fall back on, because he screwed over everybody he's touched, his real family, everybody. You don't want us to psychoanalyze you, kid, but when you go on spurgs about how you blame your family for what happened, or yeah, you say a lot. You need to quit saying so much. And your little Chatsburgs, huh, you say a lot more there too. Huh. Smoked brisket. Meat sounds good in general. Yeah, his monologues, they say quite a lot. Well, let's get everybody's favorite panel guest. Let's Tobers. He's large. He says, look at me. I'm such a beautiful cat. I'm such a handsome boy. Meow.
Finally got what was stuck in the fur in his neck.
Oh, okay. Hmm. My son keeps coming to pet him. Wow. Meow. Big Cobra cat. Meow. Get down. Who is doing that? Would somebody like to say? I don't see any laughing. If somebody sees something inappropriate, I expect the mods to delete the comment. Wow. Corrosive. I didn't even know you were in the chat. Randy, how are you? A little honest. Sometimes the community doesn't like unflinching honesty. I have already asked for a mod to delete any inappropriate comments. So has it been deleted?
you say you were going to order tacos?
So, Rainbow Sand, would you care to identify yourself? Or are you just going to sock up? I have to laugh at that. One day at a time, Randy. One day at a time. And like I said, work has been good. Kind of clinging on to work. Yep. Anyway, well, I guess I showed off my cat and I talked about everything. I wanted to kind of check in and make sure all of you knew I was alive. I'm alive. Everything happens for a reason, even if it sucks. So, yeah. Well, I sometimes whether something's good or bad can change hour by hour for me right now. Hello, John. So I'm gonna have to get off. If nobody else is gonna come up and talk to me, I'm gonna pregnant pause all evening. And yeah. And my son came over just a few minutes ago and said, weren't we going to order tacos? I guess I need to get the kids some tacos. A show tune, sigh out. Huh. Who knows what will happen? I figure my best chance of having my husband haunt me would be to get that sun and moon tattoo. Who knows? But for now, it's one day at a time as I navigate learning to breathe in a very frightening new world. So, with that, I'm going to sign off. Everybody take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you for coming by. Thanks to Bedtime Clan for coming up. And all those important things you need to say to your loved ones, take the time to say them. And maybe add a daily Nexium. A daily Nexium can help prevent a stomach ulcer. And preventing a stomach ulcer can potentially save your life. Have a good evening.